You see, it's funny because April 1st, Awakened Realms was like, oh, we're going to do Tainted Grail Monopoly, as if that's like a really funny thing, and now Awakened Realms is putting out a deluxe edition of Castle of Burgundy, which has me incredibly excited. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and we'll talk about that in a second, doing the whole news, game announcement, all of that stuff. This is news and week in review. And to that end, let's go ahead and dive into the news, the week in review, the games I played, the schedule of the week, the topic of the week, the videos I filmed last week, all the usual things, starting off with game news. First of all, Play the Game. Play the Game is a channel from Kidsplaining where they basically do a totally different stuff than what Kidsplaining does. They play the game. Think tabletop with Will Wheaton, a little adjacent to that in terms of the way they approach it. They have a few videos up so far. I've talked about it before in a week in review, but I'm going to talk about it again and link to that channel down below. They have some fantastic game stuff coming out and more coming out. I believe they'll have a Play the Game version of Wonderland's War, if I'm not mistaken, fairly shortly. The quality is top notch. Give it like 5 minutes, you'll see what I mean. Either you value it and you subscribe, or you don't and you don't. It only costs you a few minutes of a video on in the background to see if it's for you or not. From there, last week, Jesse Quacklope did a ASMR Crokinole video. If that sounds ridiculous to you and not worth your time, I hear you. I watched most of his videos and I debated whether to click on that one, and then I just couldn't stop. It is surprisingly compelling. Again, I recommend like 3 minutes of just dedicated watching them play Crokinole. It is surprisingly addicting, and I want to see more stuff like that. I don't know how many games you can reliably do that with while maintaining the type of content you're doing. I want to see more of it. I'm intrigued. Then we have G.I. Joe Mission Critical. That's going to be coming to you from Renegade Games. Basically, it's Power Rangers, sort of, not really. But G.I. Joe Mission Critical is going to be coming to Kickstarter soon. I briefly talked about it like a week or two ago, but apparently it's coming to Kickstarter, so you can check that out. We'll talk about it more, and it's also one of the reasons why Power Rangers is on the table. We have The Breach from Ludus Magnus Studios. They announced a date for their Kickstarter. May 24th is when it's going to be on Kickstarter. I'll say this much. If you're part of the Facebook group, and I'll link to the Facebook group down below, but if you're part of the Facebook group and you've been seeing the various images pop up, the game looks amazing. That does not mean it's good at all. I have to actually play it and see if it's for me and all that stuff, but it looks amazing. The visuals, the miniatures, the stylings they're going for, they're doing some fun little different stuff with the miniatures. Looks absolutely amazing. I'm very intrigued. Then lastly in news, we have April Fool's stuff. Not really a large news segment, just last week was April Fool's, and that means we had a ton of news things popping up. We had the Brew Medium Roast coming from Pandasaurus Games. We had Great Western Trail Golem Edition coming from 25th Century. We had Monopoly Avalon Edition from Awakened Realms. We had Codename Solo Mode, which honestly I don't know why that's an April Fool's thing. That should really just straight up be a thing. We have Marvel Champion Spider-Ham coming out, apparently, or not. We had Love Found, a new version of Game Found, but to help pair you with your perfect gaming partner for life. We had Chris from Room Board doing some weird, wacky, Freaky Friday kind of thing. And we have Mackenzie from Side Room Games repacking stuff. It's stuff. Go fish or whatever. Either way, a whole bunch of stuff. Honestly, my favorite April Fool's board game joke ever is from, I think, 2 years ago, maybe last year, I don't know, but it was basically a picture of Terraforming Mars, like, but with the Alien edition on it, and it's like called Terraforming Mars Alien, I don't remember what it's called, but the image was striking, and I totally wanted that game. Would it be terrible? Probably, but I totally wanted that game. From there, we go into game news. Game news, a whole bunch of new game stuff announced, and I'm saving the best for last on this one. Again, timestamps and links and all those things down below. We had Bites. Bites coming out with Bites from Board Game Tables is having an expansion. Interestingly enough, we also saw QE from Board Game Tables last week is having an expansion, which means, if I know anything, it's that Board Game Tables likes doing things in sets, which means I would bet dollars to donuts that we will see another announcement for another Board Game Tables expansion, so that there will be a set of at least 3, possibly more, but at least 3 expansions in a single bundled Kickstarter. You'll probably, if I had to guess, we have Bites, we have QE, On Tour is possible, but I'm a little... On Tour is possible. I wonder what it would be. I'm trying to remember what I have from Board Game Tables. It's not really Factory Thunder, that's too recent. It might just be On Tour. It might be another version of On Tour as the third part of the trio. They're likely going to go with the same big box expansion. Could be Bear Raid, but feels a little too soon for that one. I'm going to guess On Tour, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. But the thing I'm really betting on is that we will see another expansion announcement from Board Game Tables because they like to do things in threes. although they have had expansions. They have had Kickstarters which has 2 games, but this is expansions. There's got to be at least 3 of them. Anyways, we had Agricola having a 15th anniversary edition coming out, so we'll see more of that. We have Evora from Meebo Games. Now, I don't know much about Evora at all. I'll have a link down below as usual, but I do know that Meebo Games puts out one of my favorite games. What's it called? The City of Spies. City of Spies from Meebo Games. Absolutely love it. So I'm interested in whatever they do just automatically. We have Galaxy Trucker Keep on Trucking. The newest expansion for Galaxy Trucker. The first expansion in the new version of their line of Galaxy Trucker. They rebooted Galaxy Trucker a year ago, 2 years ago. And they have a new expansion, Keep on Trucking. So it's more Galaxy Trucker, in case you're part of the reboot series of Galaxy Trucker. We have Great Wall, and we have 3 things from Awakened Realms. We have a Great Wall reprint coming on GameFound, so if you missed out on the Great Wall, it's coming to GameFound. Additionally, if you're not excited enough, we have Tainted Grail, the Kings of Rune. It's going to be a revised 2nd edition of Tainted Grail with minimal changes, but possible changes. I don't know if they'll have an upgrade pack or not. You don't need one, but maybe they'll want one. I don't know. And then we have Kings of Rune, the new expansion for Tainted Grail, which also does mean I finally need to break up my Tainted Grail. So that will hopefully happen. And then lastly, and the thing that has me the most ridiculously excited, it's not even funny, is a Castle of Burgundy Deluxe Edition. Castle of Burgundy is my 2nd favorite game of all time, right behind Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars, though, I have a Deluxe Edition already that has already improved my experience. And with Castle of Burgundy having a Deluxe Edition, and also, by the way, I've checked out the page, the art that they have so far looks fine, looks great, and I like the fact that they seem to heavily be leaning into a check with the people kind of approach, which for better or for worse. The better part is it means they really are taking into account the people's feedback of, here are the art styles, how do we want to go? Here are the things we're looking to deluxify, what else do you want deluxified? That's potentially good. The part where it's potentially bad is, what if I vote for this option, and I'm really, really happy with this option, and the one that actually gets voted on is my least favorite option? That's also a possibility. Whenever you go crowdfunding, whenever you really let the masses choose, you do have that risk on the table. But it can't be worse than the 2 current editions right now, right? It can't be worse. I am wondering, well, you know what? Honestly, this is a good time to move into Topic of the Week. So, I'll have a link to all those things. You can go ahead and follow this stuff. Follow the GameFound campaigns. I mean, they announced Kings of Rune today. There's already like 13,000 people following the campaign. I haven't even checked Castle of Burgundy. The numbers are going to be huge on both those campaigns. And this obviously, by the way, is because the GameFound recently partnered with Ravensburger. And so they are putting out a Ravensburger game, a deluxified version. Which means you should now look at your catalog of all the Ravensburger games that you like and see which ones you think are likely to be showing up at Kickstarter anytime soon. At GameFound. Not Kickstarter, at GameFound anytime soon. And with that, let's move into the topic of the week because it's directly related and inspired by Castle of Burgundy. And a comment I made in a recent video as well. The nature of making things harder to table. You see, I'm excited about Castle of Burgundy, make no mistake. I am excited, but I'm also excited with the 100% being willing and prepared to get the game and then get rid of it straight away if I find that it's not a game for me. If I find that, not Castle of Burgundy is amazing, but if I find that the Castle of Burgundy Deluxe Edition, if it makes Castle of Burgundy less likely for me to table it, I will get rid of it in a heartbeat and keep my original Castle of Burgundy. This is something I was totally prepared to do when I got Terraforming Mars, the big box edition. I was worried that it would make the game harder to table. You put something in a big box, there's more of a barrier to entry. The big box, though, in Terraforming Mars is actually organized very well in such a way that it does not make the game harder to table, and it does make the game prettier, so I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan, but I was prepared to get rid of it. I have the same willingness and preparation for Castle of Burgundy. If you turn something into a blocker for me to play, if you make it so that I have to go through 14 inserts and to lovingly put away every single miniature, or that there's just too much content and I have to wade my way through it, it can make things harder to table. We just talked about Breach from Ludus Magnus Studios a few minutes ago. Black Rose Wars is a harder game to table as soon as you get all the content for it. Claim is a game that I played the little 2-player trick-taking game, small little box, something smaller than the size of this, basically the size of my phone. Played it, really enjoyed it, great, awesome. I got the big box, and now I have way too much Claim, and it's much more of a obligation to jump into it, to table it, to figure out which decks I want to pair up. Sometimes more is not better. And I'm mindful of that. I'm aware of that. And I'm worried about that with Castle of Burgundy. How many miniatures are they going to throw in? What stretch goals? What things? Are the tiles going to be 14 layers thick? I mean, obviously not, but I don't know what they're going to do. And my expectation, to be very clear, is that it will be a game for me. That it will add to the table presence without overly adding to the blockers. It is, after all, a fairly simple Euro that fits in a small box, and yet they're already showing on the GameFound page 2 giant boxes. So I'm really, really excited and interested and intimidated at the same time. It's the nature of the board game space. It's the nature of any space, really. Just the board games is where I happen to spend my time. But it's the nature of inherently you're trying to sell things to people. Companies need money to survive, and companies, ideally, in order to do that, they find products that people want, or products that people think they want, which is the danger. Products that people want is easy. If you find a mutual win-win, that is great for everyone. The company makes money, the person's happy, everyone goes home winning. The problem is when you sell people products that they think they want, but they don't actually want. The idea that you, right now at home, may be sitting there, I just did a video on this, but it applies here. The idea that you might be sitting at home right now perfectly content with your Castle Burgundy. You might have the original version, you might have the new version, whichever one you have, you decided you are happy with it. And you love it like I do, because it's an amazing game, let's be honest. But now that you know that this product exists, now that you know Castle Burgundy Deluxe exists, you may find yourself pulled in to spend $100, $170, I'm making up numbers, I have no idea what it'll cost. You might find yourself compelled to spend a large amount of money on a game that might not improve your experience. But you want it. That's where you find yourselves in these weird middle grounds of selling people. The company's happy because the company sat there and made money, the company did their thing, but the person isn't necessarily happy. You've now introduced a state of unknown, of wanting without needing, of just seeing and therefore feeling left out if they don't get it. Even though actually getting it may not improve their quality of life in the slightest. Again, I think Black Rose Wars is a great game. I think Black Rose Wars and all the deluxe expansion content is very pretty and shiny, but unless you are playing Black Rose Wars a lot, it's just pretty and shiny and you want it and it won't improve your experience. Again, if you are playing it a lot, then it does. So, accessibility. Introducing things people want, introducing deluxe editions, introducing more. I mean, even just Tainted Grail, Kings of Rune. I don't mean to hate on GameFound here. I love GameFound, but or Awakened Realms, I guess. But Tainted Grail, Kings of Rune, in theory, should be completely unnecessary and useless to you if you have Tainted Grail content that you have not finished, right? I mean, if you like Tainted Grail, if you've played Tainted Grail, if you enjoy it, and you have an all-in from the first Kickstarter, why are you entertaining Tainted Grail, Kings of Rune? Why do you feel the need for it? Is it going to improve your experience? Are you going to skip what you haven't finished and go straight to that? Is this another Frosthaven situation where you're jumping into Frosthaven even though you've only played Gloomhaven 20 times? We find ourselves wanting things. I'm sympathetic. I want things. I want Kings of Rune, and I haven't played Tainted Grail. It's obscene. It's obnoxious. It doesn't make any sense. With Castle Burgundy, I have no doubt, by the way. Castle Burgundy, I'm getting it. It's not a question. If I don't like it, I'll sell it. I'm sure it'll hold its value, or most of its value. That's the way these GameFound Awakened Realm campaigns tend to go. Tainted Grail, same idea. It'll hold its value. The problem with Tainted Grail is that Castle Burgundy, I will play it within the first week of getting it, because I love that game, and I will welcome the excuse to dive into a game I already know. Tainted Grail, on the other hand, I'll probably get the expansion, and then it'll sit on my shelf unplayed until eventually I find myself diving into a campaign game. So I know full well the mistake I'm making, and I can't even say it'll hold its value. That only applies if I actually sell it. It doesn't apply if it's sitting on my shelf doing nothing. Sometimes more is not better. Sometimes getting more stuff makes a game harder to table. Sometimes getting more games makes it so that you are less likely to play the game you have. And you need to be mindful of that as you buy things, as you spend money and stuff. I mean, need is a relative term. You do what you want. But ideally, try to be mindful of that for your own sake. Not for mine, for your sake. Spend less money if it helps. Don't get the new shiny if it helps. And if you think it is worth it, or if you're willing to sell it if it's not for you, or any of those things, then go ahead and dive in. Or ultimately, usual disclaimer, do what you want. I always get, whenever I do these, semi-preachy mindfulness conversations, I always get, one or two comments from people who are like, I'll do what I want. Yes, of course you should do what you want. That's absolutely true. That's not the conversation on the table, though. The conversation on the table is you should do what you want just as much as when I'm telling you a game is awesome and I love it, as well as when I'm telling you be conservative and don't spend money on things you don't need. This is the third time I'm doing that kind of conversation this week. This really, something's gotten into me. I don't know what it is. It's a coincidence this time. It happens to be pure coincidence. Anyway, moving on from there to the games I played. The games I played this week are actually fairly specific, okay, because I've played, and I think I have left out a few plays, I always have, but let's go through it. Starting off, truth is Saturday I played a lot. I actually played a lot of stuff Saturday, so there's a lot of stuff. The rest of the week was just Jurassic World. We'll talk about that shortly. So, starting off, we have Dice Miner. Got to play of Dice Miner, played online in Sovereignty. Enjoyed it, didn't love it, but liked it. We had Jurassic World, The Legacy of Isla Nublar. Jurassic World is a game that I have played 7 times in the past week, and I will be talking about that in a review later today, so we'll talk about that shortly. I got a copy, I got it last week, I started diving into it. I think last Friday was my first game. Right now when I film this, it's Thursday, and I've gotten in 7 plays in 6 days, I guess. Yeah, it makes sense. 7 plays in 6 days. I thought it was 7 plays in 7 days. 7 plays in 6 days. That's how many plays I've gotten in. I will be continuing to dive into it. Ultimately, I filmed my review already because I wanted you to have the information so you can decide before the campaign is over. So yeah, that'll be coming later today. We have Almanac, the Dragon Road, which is amazing. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'll do a review of it, obviously. Not obviously. I'll do a review of it. But Almanac, the Dragon Road, I really liked that game. One play. I need to dive into it more. Thinker Themer recommended it. To be fair, I had it already, but Thinker Themer recommended it, and like I played it because I got it off the shelf compared to other unplayed games because they talked about how good it was. It was so good. I loved Almanac the Dragon Road. I will gush about it. It's not the best game, but it's so charming. So charming. We have Flamecraft, which you're like, Flamecraft? That's not out yet. You're right, it's not out yet, but I still have the prototype, and my son found it. I was actually purging a bunch of prototypes, getting them out. My son saw Flamecraft, and he's like, I want to play Flamecraft. So we played Flamecraft. We have Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. The game you see here on the table, gotten a solo play of this one. I want to play it with more players, which is why it's on the table, but I've been diving into this one, finally. I've had it for a bit. I want to table this one, but I enjoyed it. We'll talk about it more when I play it more. We have Animalia, Preventing Extinction. That's a new game from Quined Games, a new little trick-taking game. It's playable solo and cooperative. I played it cooperatively. I have doubts in cooperative play. I'll explain those at a video at some point. But I want to play the solo play because I think, based on the cooperative play, that I will enjoy the solo play more. Solo trick-taking, which I recently talked about in another video. We have Crokinole. Got another play of Crokinole because I've been playing Crokinole recently, so I got another play of it. We have Viscounts of the West Kingdom. I will not be reviewing this game. We'll talk about it more in a Games Leaving the Collection video. I know I hate on Garphill games. I know I do. And I know I'm in the minority. And I love Hadrian's Wall, so it's not purely against the company. It's just the nature of I don't love their games. Viscounts was singularly, without question, the worst Garphill games experience I've had. Not just me. From the 3 people who were playing with it, I was not having fun. And then halfway through the game, the other person's like, is anyone actually enjoying themselves? And the other 2 of us were like, no, but we didn't want to say anything. I double-checked the rules, made sure we're not playing it wrong. I understand what's happening in the game. We'll talk about it more in a Games Leaving the Collection video. This is a me problem. People love the games. I am somehow... Something about the game design does not work for me. This is no different than having a genre of games. Like, hey, I don't like war games with tons of little chits. Like, hey, I don't like, heavily app-integrated experiences with some exceptions. Apparently it's, hey, I don't like Garphill games with some exceptions. I'm really hoping their dice placement game is different. I've started seeing it go into content creators. I'm not getting a copy, which makes sense. If I were them, I wouldn't send me a copy. But I might actually back that one. Maybe. I don't know. I'll get it at some point. Either way. City of Spies. I played City of Spies. Love it. Absolutely love it. This goes back to me talking about Evora, or whatever it was called. It was Evora. Yeah, Evora. But City of Spies. Great game. Haven't played in a while. It's been too long. Really enjoyed it. Got in a few plays of Radlands, which is great, because Radlands is great, and I'm happy to play Radlands again. We have Jurassic World. Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, Jurassic World. Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion being the intro one over there, the intermediary interruption there. Really enjoyed Gloomhaven. Solid game. Still going through it with my friend. Still enjoying it. Then we have Dead Reckoning. Wait, I'm missing one. Oh, that's another one. Gotten a play of the Viticulture thingy happening. Okay, I'm not going to say more about it, but I got in a second play. I've already played it, but I got another play of the Viticulture thingy happening. Then I got in a play of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which is great. Then I got in a play of Jurassic World, and then followed that with a play of Dead Reckoning. So again, Saturday was a whole bunch of games. The rest of the week was just a ton of Jurassic World. But Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning's so good! Oh my gosh. Dead Reckoning is one of those games that it's been so long since I played it that I was like, I probably just built up in my head how much fun it was. It's a ton of fun. I lost again horribly. Both times I've played, I've lost now. But I really like it. I'm very much a fan, and I hope to be starting to dive into the sagas together with Jesse and Shira from Crackalope. Because this is Shira's first play. I played with Jesse a year ago on camera, way back when. But this is Shira's first play. She really enjoyed it. All of us enjoyed it. We will definitely be playing more of Dead Reckoning. I'm very much looking forward to it. Which brings us to the weekend review, starting off with Saturday. Saturday was Canvas and Canvas Reflections, a re-review of Canvas. I gave it a 4 out of 5. The original, when I first played Canvas, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's just grown on me so much the more I've played it. It's so accessible. Love that game. We have Decorum. I got in a review of Decorum, gave it a 4 out of 5 as well. Decorum is ridiculous, and it's very passive-aggressive, but it kind of works. I really enjoyed playing it a lot with my wife, also with my daughter. It's just a fun game of trying to figure out what the other person wants without actually talking to each other past vague things about what you like and don't like. We had Sunday. Sunday was a video about stop buying new games. This was the first of 3 instances where I decided to be preachy about buying games. I don't know what's in the water. Again, I love games. I'm definitely buying more games. Just sometimes I do this. Just usually it's like not 3 times in 1 week. One of them being the topic of the week today. One of them being Sunday. Stop buying new games. The video did well. Very happy with it. But it is yeah, it's a thing. I'm always mindful of being on the FOMO side of things. I'm always mindful of the fact that I get to talk about games that I like. For instance, let's talk about this, okay? Raw from what's it called? Well, this Raw is going to be from 20th Century Games. Did I say 20th Century earlier? I think I said 20th Century earlier when I didn't mean to. Great Western Trail from Plan B Games, not 20th Century Games. That's an earlier callback to earlier in the video. But either way, Raw from 20th Century Games is a great game. It's a great game. We'll talk about it more. I actually got rid of Raw a while ago because I just played it so many times, but it's like Tigris and Euphrates. It's a game that when I got rid of it, I was like, it's a great game. I just got rid of it. But Raw, it's shiny, it's pretty, it's got great new art. It's art by Tool. It's the design that's done so well. It's a great, amazing auction game, and I guarantee you, I will be telling you how good this game is in a review. I know that because even though I hope to play this version shortly, I've played Raw for years. I have like 20 plus plays of Raw in my belt, which for some people is not necessarily a lot. For me, that's a lot for a game because I play a lot of games. I love Raw, and I'm going to sit there and tell you how good a game it is, and I'm going to gush about the art because I love the graphic design of this game. But then I feel bad that I'm doing that. I feel bad that I like the games. I only gush when I like the games. The rest of the time I'm being like, yeah, it's okay, it's whatever. But I love Raw, and I'm going to gush about it. But that does make me always self-conscious about the fact that I am being a pusher of games on the one side, so I try to balance it out with real talk on the other side at times. On Monday, we had To Back Not To Back, a whole bunch of games on Kickstarter. We had more updates this week than new stuff. We had a Rove expansion collection. We have Nightmare Cathedral, Dead by Daylight, Age of Rome, a bunch of games that... Age of Rome was last week or was it an update? Age of Rome might have been last week. I don't remember. No, was it this week? It might have been this week. I don't know. Either way, a bunch of things on Kickstarter. Usual To Back and Not To Back adventures. Tuesday, we had 6 quick reviews in a single video. Just I do this occasionally with a bunch of smaller games that don't have as much general interest. Or in this case, actually, there were some games that were expansions that I wanted to cover the expansions, like Project L Finesse expansion. I didn't want to do a full video on it, so I threw it into a roundup video of 6 reviews. Some games that I liked, some games I didn't like, some I'm keeping, some I'm not keeping, some expansions, and more not expansions. Later on Tuesday, we had a review for the Quest Kids and the Big Bads of Tulk's Cave expansion, currently on Kickstarter. Then we had, and that one, for context, is a dungeon crawler that's not for me. I'll play it with my children because they enjoy it and they like it and they ask for it. It's not my go-to pick, but that's because it's kid-focused. Then later on Tuesday, we had a review for Viticulture. Not anything new Viticulture, just typical Viticulture, which I love and is great, and I've been meaning to review it for a year, and I kept pushing off that review. On Wednesday, I had ranking 169 games. I took all the games that I played in the first quarter of the year, and I ranked them all in a single video, ordering them. So if you want to pick the top 40 games I've played, there's some really solid stuff in the top 40. Some really solid stuff. There's a lot of... I mean, honestly, if you cut the list in half, you could probably ignore the bottom half entirely. From my own stance. Your opinion is obviously going to be different from mine, but saying, there's just so many games, I don't need to play all the games. But for me, the part where I was trying to find a nice line that got you a lot of good games, the top 50 have a lot of good games. A lot. There's a lot of good games out there. And I'm playing a lot of them right now, which I'm very grateful for. So that was fun. That was Wednesday. Then on Thursday, we had Good Backs, Bad Values. This was the second video where I was a little bit more conservative about things, talking about the nature of a good back, something that will hold its value, versus a bad value, something that is just not worth what you're paying for. Those two things are... This goes back to Castle of Burgundy. Castle of Burgundy Deluxe Edition, okay? I am back in that game. Not a question, so this is part of the conversation here. Castle of Burgundy Deluxe Edition is going to run you a pretty penny for a game that is amazing and is my second favorite game of all time in its current garbage graphic design state. I'm being intentionally... It's not garbage. It's not to my taste. But it doesn't look great. It looks bad, and it's available for like, what, $45 right now? For my second favorite game of all time, one of the best rated games on Board Game Geek. It's ridiculously well loved and ranked and all that, and you can get that now. Or on GameFound, you can get Castle of Burgundy Deluxe Edition, which will absolutely hold its value. I'm not worried, well, probably, I have to wait till I see it, but probably will hold its value. But that doesn't mean it's worth $100 and whatever to you. It doesn't mean that. So that's the difference between a good back and a bad value. You have to decide, just because something will hold its value doesn't mean it's a good value, even if it does. And so that was the point of Thursday's video. Then later on Thursday, talking about expensive stuff that might not be worth it, we had a Bardsung unboxing. Very excited for it. It's very pretty. It's very shiny. I need to read the rules and dive into it, along with a dozen other things. So Bardsung, I hope to table it soon. We'll see what happens there. That's Bardsung. Then on Friday we had games leaving my collection for March. That's the one. Games leaving my collection for March. That video went up Friday with all the games that were leaving my collection in March. A bunch of stuff, not a ton. I have several larger purges coming. I've been saying this for a while. I have like a full calyx over here of games behind me. Half of them from games leaving my collection that I haven't sold, and half of them from things I'm being very hard on to actually finally get rid of. And then today we have a few things going up. We have a review for Magic Maze, Magic Maze on Mars specifically. I think it's called Magic Maze on Mars. It's somewhere over here. I have to find the title. Magic Maze on Mars. It's one of the versions of Magic Maze. I'll be reviewing that. And then later today, we'll have, the last thing at 4 today, we'll have Jurassic World Legacy review. It's a review 7 games into the experience. I fully go into the video. There's no graphics, there's no board, none of that stuff, because I can't show you that because mine is heavily marked up with stuff that you're not supposed to see quite yet. It's worth watching, my opinion. Well, it's worth watching if you're interested. That's the conversation goes. And that's Jurassic World as far as a review there. Which means this is next week. Next week we'll have a few things. We'll have a review for Dark Order. We'll have a review for... possibly a review for Last Light. Depends if the copy actually gets here in time. Where is it? It hasn't arrived yet. Oh my gosh, I have to look into that. And then we'll also have Last Year in Review. Last Year in Review is going to be coming as well. Last Year in Review is basically just me covering all the stuff I reviewed a year ago and seeing how they held up, where they are, all of that, as well as several other videos. I just like to call out 2 or 3 at any given point. Which brings us lastly and finally to the games on the table. We have Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, which I really hope to dive into with more than just myself. I enjoyed my solo play. I'll talk about it more in a full review at some point, but I want to dive into this with more than just myself. We have Flip Down, a roll-and-write game that was solo initially, but has since moved to being more than solo, and I want to dive into it now with other players. I've played it multiple times solo as it is. I want to dive into it with multiple players. We have Get On Board New York and London, of which I've only played London so far, or New York. I've played whichever one the bigger map is. Okay, whichever one the bigger map is, I've played that a few times, but I want to dive into the New York map, and then probably cover it. This is a new title from Yellow, a reprint of Let's Make a Bus Route, and then finally, Raw. I've played Raw a lot over the years. I have not played the new Ian O'Toole version. I have a lot of positive things to say about this already, just based on the player boards and how easy it makes some of the things going. But we'll talk about that more in a dedicated video at some point. The paper's peeling off, prototype stuff. And that's it. That is the week in review. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you have a great and relaxing weekend. There's also going to be a video on the channel tomorrow that I'd appreciate if you watched. You don't have to. I mean, it's going to be fairly specific in the title, but tomorrow's video I'd appreciate if you watched it. Just if you've been around, it would be helpful. We'll see. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and I hope you have a good one.